Oh, my dad belonged to two fishing clubs that had lakes over in Greenville, Illinois, and I spent a lot of time there. And I always loved lakes. And I bought a house when I moved to Edwardsville in the late summer of 1961, and I discovered when I could see this lake from my house when the trees lost their leaves, even though I was not on the lake or in the subdivision. And when I saw this lake, I thought, wow. And one of the teachers, Ben Ezelhart, lived on the lake, and I went to him, and he told me a little bit of the history of the lake, and wow, I was sold. So when that lot went up for sale, I bought it. And when this house went up for sale, I traded that lot in on this house in 1967. And I haven't regretted 1 minute of it. The Governor Dunlap, not Governor, Colonel Dunlap, give him the right name. He was really a colonel, but he became a colonel by like a lot of people were called a colonel. But anyway, he owned all this land. He bought all this land, and he had a construction business where he built highways. Well, this was during the Depression, and I think work became rather sparse. And he decided, he had a work crew that worked for him building highways, that he would keep his workers busy by building a lake out here. And this is in the 1930s. So he kept those people working, built this lake. And the cat likes to be in my lap. But anyway, he built this lake, and he also built the gun club over here, and he had a big building over there, and they had a couple from Edwardsville who had a restaurant there, and they did a lot of business, had good food, I was told. And anyway, he decided to subdivide it, and he did. And he had friends who bought lots out here. And a lot of them were close friends of his. And he ended up doing that then. And that was about 1939 that all that came about. And anyway, a lot of the homes to start with were just small homes. People had these, they'd come out in the summertime and so on. But now it's really grown into big homes and very nice subdivision. And that's the history that I know. I can tell you some other things, but I'm not sure you want to know all that. But like the history when it was first built, we had a lake patrol that we hired. Usually it was a deputy or a policeman that, on his spare time, they would hire different ones, and they would come out and patrol the lake, make sure anybody that was out here on the lake, mostly for insurance, I think, in case somebody drowned. But anyway, they patrolled the lake and kept it clean and so on. And we used that same boat we furnished him with. It was a big John boat, and we used it to spray the lake to keep the moss out. And we got away from that when we put grass carp or carp that eat moss and stuff. And that really helped the lake out. Those carp did not reproduce, but people would catch them when they got bigger and clean them and eat them. But that's the history as I know it, really. Oh, my kids. We didn't go on vacations very much because I told the kids, I said, where could you go that's any better than here? And so we kind of used this as our vacation place. I remember one time I was at a summer school in Oklahoma. I went to the National Science Foundation. They had it on computers, and I went down there to learn about programming, and I took with me pictures of the lake and everything, and I showed some of my friends down there. They said, "You left that to come down here?" And I said, "Yeah, I know. This is my first." I was the summer of '67, and I moved here in '68, and I moved here in '67. And I know this is the first year that I would have had that's the whole summer on the lake, but I wanted to study computers, so I did. I had a boat, motorboat, and I had what we called a skipper, and it was, about 8 foot long, I would guess, and we would pull it behind the boat, and kids would get on it, and we'd pull them around the lake. You couldn't water ski with a small motor on the boat, but Randy my son, he got to where he would take his dog, what was it, George? And George would ride on that skipper as Randy rode around the lake. And people come out of their house and take pictures of it going down the lake, So that's, and another early memory of my daughter keeps reminding me that oak tree out in my front yard, when I was first here, I don't know what year it was, but that came out, and it was a tree about 6 foot tall. Oak tree, nice oak tree. Might have been 5 foot tall. I think it wasn't 6 foot. Anyway, I dug it up and I put it in a wash tub and carried it up from my backyard up to here and planted it in my front yard. And so that 4 or 5 foot probably oak tree turned into be the oak tree you see out in my front yard. So I've been here a while. But I think the oak tree will be here longer than I am. But the whole family, we just enjoy the lake so much. I would recommend it to anybody. Yeah. Well, I have a lot of friends that like to come, and relatives who would come here a lot to see me and to see the lake and to enjoy the lake. And a lot of relatives. I've kind of most of my brother-in-law, sister-in-law, I've almost outlived all of them. But we did a lot of fishing here with my brother-in-law and my cousin, my Karma's cousins, my kids' cousins from across St. Louis County. Oh, they would come over here in the summertime and swim. They'd swim. They love this lake, and they still talk about it. The lake is just a wonderful place to live. Well, the biggest event of all is city water and sewer. I served on the lake board, I ran for the lake board at that time, simply because we were considering talking to the city about putting in city water and sewer out here. Because we didn't have that, and that's why the property didn't sell quite as fast as you might think, because people were leery of having their own septic tank and so on, where all the lots leaned down toward the lake. You had to make sure that didn't seep in. And so when I heard that there was a possibility, I immediately went and said, I'll run for the board. Well, we went and did a survey to get of all the people, and of course, I would say 95%, if not better than that, the people lived on the lake signed up immediately. We want city water and sewer. But to get that, we had to also get some of the people that aren't in this subdivision. I can't think of the name of the street, but there's one that I had to go ask. You know where Franklin is? A block south of Franklin is a street that parallels Franklin, and none of those people on Franklin or on that street were on the lake subdivision. And I'd say we might have got 50% of them to sign up, because they thought we were just trying to, get money for us and not. But anyway, we got enough signatures, and then there was a politician by the name of Sam Vidalabine. And Sam was a state politician, and he got us a grant because of the danger of pollution of the lake with the septic tanks. And that grant really helped us financially to get city water and sewer out here. And that was a big project. And it was a big deal for the city of Edwardsville because my land, that opened this whole area up out here where they were kind of, none of these properties were in the subdivision, were in the city limits. And now they took, we all were part of Edwardsville, and that was great. I enjoyed that. That's the big thing that helped this lake out. When I moved here, it was a little over 8,000. I was 8,200 people lived here. And they haven't changed it since they did the latest population count. But now it's over 26,000, I think. And I'm sure it's bigger than that because that was in 2010, it was 26,000. And now we're in the 2023. So that was and I was amazed when I moved here that we had a daily newspaper, with 8,000 people. But it did have just 8,000 people. I was amazed how small the town was, and the high school definitely was smaller too. I taught there for several years, and I just saw this town has grown tremendously, and I can see why. It's a very, very good area. Close to St. Louis, SIUE. I mean, I think it's a fantastic town. Well, the one advice I would give them if they bought a house out here or built a house out here was to make sure they had a pontoon boat. When I moved out here, there was not one pontoon boat on the lake, not one. And I'm not even sure when they became popular in the United States, but I remember when my son was probably about junior high age. What year would that be? Well, anyway, he was about 7 when I moved here, so a few years later, the first pontoon boat I saw out here was a friend of his. Dad bought a pontoon boat, and boy, it was the hit for the lake. The unfortunate thing about that pontoon boat at that time, it was made out of steel, and it rusted, and so it didn't last very long. But now any pontoon boat you can buy, I think, is aluminum. And if you don't have one when you move here, get one right away, because you can take your family out there, you can entertain. It's just great to have a pontoon boat. And I can't even tell you how many pontoon boats are on this lake, but a lot. I think it's got a very good future. Right now, we're getting ready to dredge what we used to call Little Africa, where the water first came in, down in, the name of that street was Gerber Road, down by Gerber Road, where the water came into the lake, the majority of the water that came into the lake. That used to be grown over, and the stream that went through there was not hardly as wide as this room. And the kids would like to go down there because you were going through like a tunnel, more or less. And you saw, I think he called it, if you've seen the African movie, what was Humphrey Bogart, that kind of reminded me of that. But that was something else. The future of this lake is fantastic. Yeah. My feeling is, and I'll just speak this way, It's not pertaining just to this lake. But I think Edwardsville, District 7, is the best school system this side of the river. And I can remember we used to have people who would come in the office at the high school, and they would ask how many people we had that made this role and that role. And we've just grown tremendously. And I think personally that District 7 is the reason why this town has grown the way it has. But that's it. I'm a little prejudiced there because I taught there for 30-some years.